To your hurricane and severe weather talk on today is June 23rd, 2011. It's 11:45 Eastern Daylight Time over here on the East Coast, and we thank you for joining us today for your severe weather and hurricane talk. As you can see right now, here's the Storm Prediction Center map, the latest one as of earlier today. There is a slight risk of severe storms over parts of the northwestern parts of the Rockies today, parts of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, and also a bona fide risk of severe thunderstorms over parts of the interior parts of the Northeast, the Tennessee River Valley, the Ohio River Valley, and parts of the Ozarks, Tennessee, Texas, and also parts of, Oklahoma and parts of Kansas today. Hands down, today looks like the biggest threat overall as of a major hail threat will likely be around this area right here I'm circling is where the biggest potential for the largest hail. We're talking about possibly over golf ball size to possibly baseball size. The biggest hail threat looks like it's probably going to be in the northwest parts of the Rockies where the biggest threat will be today. A bona fide risk of also some severe weather is also possible over parts of the Tennessee River Valley and parts of the Carolinas also today, where pretty much the same areas are going to get slammed as they did yesterday with the potential for some severe weather. As you can see, right now we're appearing more likely of a damaging wind threat over parts of the eastern part of the U.S. today. Tornado risk looks very minimal today, but there also, obviously, you can't rule out any storm that pops up could also obviously produce a brief tornado, especially in parts of the interior parts of the Northeast and parts of the Rockies where the turning of the winds look more supportive for potential tornadic development. So that's going to be something we're going to have to watch. Very active day yesterday. Here's a look at the Storm Prediction Center map from yesterday afternoon. You can see there is a couple of tornado reports that came in over parts of Tennessee where an EF0 tornado was confirmed yesterday by National Weather Service employees. There also was a report of a tornado touchdown northwest of Detroit and parts of Michigan. I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but we'll have to see what the National Weather Service has to say about that. There also were numerous damage reports along the I-85 corridor in the upstate of South Carolina to North Georgia and Alabama. Also, there were a few hail reports in parts of Michigan where hail was as big as golf ball size right around the Detroit area. Here's a look right now at the water vapor imagery. A lot of people have been talking about this. You've probably heard this a lot recently about could we see potentially some tropical development? Well, the answer is there could be, but we can't say it's guaranteed going to happen. There's just a chance it may happen. The models are beginning to suggest on something developing, and that's going to be something we're going to watch. Right now, you can see there is a ball of convection over parts of the Gulf right now. Associated with that, I see the remnants of Beatrice. A little bit of a meso-complex storms moved out of that area, and it actually helped produce some storms around here. Let me get that out of the way. There we are. Produce some showers and storms over this area, but upper-level conditions do not favorable for this to develop at all. This is actually going to drift off to the northeast and help produce showers and thunderstorms over parts of the Gulf Coast and parts of the Carolinas and Georgia later on today. So actually some much-needed rainfall for some areas that actually do need it really badly. You can see as I put it back into loop, you can see there is an upper-level low-pressure system right over the Bahama region. That's producing a lot of wind shear and a lot of dry air, so it's not going to develop because it's not broad at the surface. It's on the upper levels, mid and upper levels, so this is not going to develop. Don't worry about it. The rest of the Atlantic is pretty much quiet right now. There's also a ton of wind shear and a lot of dry air in a place around the Azores. The Eastern Atlantic is quiet. The Central Atlantic is quiet. The Caribbean is quiet. Just a tropical wave moving in right now of some showers and thunderstorms around southwest of Puerto Rico and southeast of Hispaniola. That is going to move off to the west. That is what we're watching right now. Environmental conditions right now are not conducive at all for this to develop at all, and they are not expected to over the next few days. But as we head into beyond that, environmental conditions may become a little bit more favorable, maybe for this to briefly become something after it crosses over the Yucatan Peninsula. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Here's a look at the shear model right now. A lot of shear, obviously, right now. So obviously not conducive for any development right now. The only areas that are conducive right now for any brief development, if there were to be anything, but there isn't, would be over the Eastern Pacific, right around just southwest of Central America right now. That's a little bit of favorable wind shear. And also there actually is a lack of shear around 10 knots over parts of the Central Atlantic. But there obviously is nothing going over there. There's an upper level low. As you guys can see right there, is the upper level low is pretty much right around this region right here, causing a lot of sinking dry air to occur, and there is no conducive development areas right now for development. There actually is an upper level high that is actually stationed over here in the central Atlantic, which is actually precluding anything from development, causing a lot of westerly wind shear and a lot of sinking dry air, precluding anything from development right now. You can see a pretty good example of it as I head back into the water vapor imagery. You can see there's sinking area of high pressures right around this area, right around here. The shear is pretty much just going from southwest, well, actually west to east, precluding anything that even tries to form. The high pressure is causing a lot of dry air in place, sinking dry air along with some African Sahara desert right now. So that's also precluding anything from development right now. Like I said, as we head into the next few days, environmental conditions may become a little bit more conducive as it head near the Yucatan to possibly development. I'm going to show you the model runs in just a few minutes of what we're seeing. Here's a look at the GFS right now. You can see there actually is becoming areas maybe becoming a little bit more favorable over the next few days. This big convex line you see right here is a sign of possibly some upper ridging right now. If this is actually, this verifies upper ridging is actually what tropical systems love to breathe in. It causes environmental conditions to become favorable, and this likely will occur because the runs have been suggesting this for the past few days. We could have some upper ridging in place. Just matters how strong it will be. Of how strong it gets will determine any kind of tropical development that we get. But there is some upper ridging that likes to be in place, and the MAJO actually suggests some moisture profile beginning to show some lifting around this area. So that will be something to watch. We actually likely will have something development. So as this area of low pressure develops and moves off to the northwest, that's going to be something to watch. It's moving to the upper ridging. Will it have a chance to develop? Likely will be. It looks like the turning will likely turn this system off to the west coast and move it toward Mexico and Texas. Looks like it's probably going to be right around the Mexico-Texas border as it looks right now. But with that upper ridging in place, it's going to cause environmental conditions to become more favorable. An area of high pressure will be aloft, which will cause the system to develop maybe some outflow and will allow the system to become more favorable to develop into possibly a tropical cyclone in the next several days. GFS also verifies it. There's the area of low pressure right there around the Yucatan Peninsula, around 1,008 millibars and dropping, but it's going to slow down a little bit, so some heavy rainfall is possible over parts of the Yucatan Peninsula. Also, pretty interesting also, the GFS wants to possibly print something out around the Eastern Pacific, but we're not really going to worry about that right now. Our attention is obviously on this system right here around the Yucatan as this heads off to the northwest into the Bay of Campeche. This likely will have the chance to develop as upper ridging begins to take effect on this system, and more than likely we will have a tropical depression if it verifies. But once again, this is a developing situation, and things can change, so we'll keep an eye on that. What you're looking at right now is a loop of the Euro model. This is as of earlier this morning. We'll wait for a new run to come in around 3 p.m. and we'll obviously update you on that one. But you can see there it is right there. If you look closely, there it is right there developing over Central America, and it has it very weak over here. It keeps it actually in southern Mexico. If it even develops, it keeps it very weak. It doesn't have it developing to anything strong. It keeps it probably a weak tropical storm at most before it crosses into Mexico. The Euro is actually keeping it in the southern part of Mexico instead of the other models. The Canadian GFS and the NAM have been keeping it farther off to the north, and the WRF models have been keeping it farther off to the north near the Texas-Mexico border. But the Euro model is keeping it farther to the south. So there obviously are some differences in the model runs, but the interesting thing is the models are all picking up on something developing in the next few days. Loop with the Canadian model. One of the models that usually blows up a storm keeps it way up aggressive. It's a really aggressive model. Not really liked by a lot of forecasters, but it's used as a forecasting tool. And actually is picking up on also this disturbance developing possibly over off the Yucatan Peninsula and blowing up into possibly a Category 1 hurricane over the Bay of Campeche. Can't say if that's going to verify or not, but that's going to be interesting to see whether this verifies or not. The Canadian model is usually not an extremely accurate model, but it is a pretty verified model. The more verified model liked by forecasters is the Euro model, which is it's interesting that it's picking up on it now. Now it's beginning to get forecasters' attention. Now that this is finally pinpointing that something may be trying to develop in the Atlantic, so that's going to be something to watch. Once again, the Canadian model has developing west of the Yucatan Peninsula, producing some very heavy rainfall, and then has it making landfall right around Brownsville, Texas. So it's going to be an interesting situation to watch. One more loop I want to show you. Here's a loop of the visible satellite imagery right now. You can see there's that ball convection I was talking about. No development expected. The upper level low right around the Bahamas. And you can see where the monsoon trough is located right now. I'm going to stop the frame so I can actually draw you out where the monsoon trough likely is. It's probably right around this area. Is where the axis of moisture is right now. This is where the monsoon trough is right now. So this is where the moisture is right now. As this content begins to develop and this wave begins to ingest some of that, then this could likely possibly produce into something. Here's the area of low pressure right now. It's a obviously elongated area of low pressure, but it continues to move off slowly off to the west. You see that sun ray move through. That means we're getting a better image as the sun has risen across this area. But once again, the monsoon trough right around Central America right now will continue to sit there, produce some very heavy rainfall over that area. But in the near term, no development is expected during the next 48 to 72 hours. Beyond that, something to watch. We'll continue to keep you updated on the hurricane and forecasting talk. Keep tuned.